Well, hey guys, welcome to this week's show. And you know, one thing we like to do a little bit is we like to go back and look at a Buckventures classic. And this is one of my favorite all-time hunts. For me personally, it wasn't just about this particular hunt. It was over a 3-year span for me. This was a deer we called Tuffy, big old mule deer there in northwest Oklahoma. A lot of people don't think of Oklahoma having deer this quality of mule deer, but a deer we had an incredible history with. We actually had a rep in that was hunting with us the year before. He actually, snuck in on him, shot him high in the shoulder. That's where he got his name, Tuffy. He actually carried the air for 3 weeks, never acted like it bothered him one bit, and lived all the way through it. And then for me, we actually spotted him in the 1st of November the next year. I tried hunting him the 2 years prior. I mean, I'd actually hunted him the year before. He'd shot him high in the shoulder, and then I tried to find him. That part of the country, mule deer can disappear pretty quick. And I never could find him. And then the year I finally got on him, the 3rd year there, he got with a group of does and they were on a wheat field, and we were able to get on him every day, but he was in a wide open. I'll never forget this hunt. It was so difficult to get on this deer with a bow because it was literally just open pasture. And when I say open pasture, they had grazed a whole bunch of calves in that pasture, and it was short. You basically had a few yucca plants here and there, and just the pure opportunity of hunting such a mature deer and then being able to see him so much, I guess is what stuck with me. A lot of times you hunt, you don't see the deer, and then you're finally able to harvest them. I mean, we pretty much saw him every single day for 2 weeks, and tried to get on him. I actually missed him. It's just a hunt that I'll absolutely never forget. It's one of the greatest deer that I've ever had the opportunity to harvest, and I sure hope you enjoy this hunt this week. We just found him, and I'm gonna tell you, who says Oklahoma don't have big mule deer? Look at that giant. We've been running around checking cameras and doing a bunch of work today. Got some friends coming in tonight, but we spotted our muley again in the same spot again, and the wind is absolutely rip-roaring. It's gusting over 50, but it's supposed to calm down right here at dark. And I think we might be able to, since it switched out of the north, get down to the bottom of this draw over here and wait. Hopefully they'll walk out that way. Well, the one thing about Tuffy and this year that I actually was able to harvest him that surprised me was, before the years past, he was never really visible. And this year, you could see him every day. I mean, he would lay with them does in the wide open, but actually that's what made it difficult. I mean, it would keep you going because you could see him, but then, either the wind would be wrong or he'd be laying facing right into the wind, or where he was at, there was no physical way to even get close to him. And so there was very few instances where I was able actually to close the distance close enough to put a stock on him. See him. And one of the first nights I can remember getting close was the day that I got up and moved and thought I was in the wrong spot, and he literally walked on top of our pack and spooked actually from walking on our pack. Make sure he doesn't turn around and come back. I'll never forget that. There's so much disappointment because I had planned, I had figured, I did everything right, and then I second guessed myself. And I'll never forget the image of him skylining over that hill. That's when I can remember, that's when the bug for Tuffy really took over for me. Oh, there he is. He's walking right to the truck.
So I said, where's he at? Where's he at? And literally we turned around and he was walking down the side of him. He almost stepped on my stuff I left laying there. And he seen it or smelled it and jumped. And then he just walked up here, walked across the road. I'll tell you what, if he's not on them toes, we're gonna have a hard time killing him.
Well, I don't even remember the days, but you know, after 10 or 12 days, I had finally figured out this deer. I'd watched him enough. We had watched him even when we couldn't stalk him, what he would do and what they were doing. And so I finally felt like I figured him out. And I can remember the night before we were able actually to harvest him, where he bedded, we had watched him bed there 3 times. I'd watched him get up and go the same route every single time. And I felt like we had him perfect. We had the wind right, we snuck in and we're in the right, absolutely perfect spot. And again, the amazing thing about Tuffy was 3 times he almost stepped on me. And I'll never forget this hunt. We had slipped in and we were basically laying on the top of the edge of the rise, and you really can't see it in the footage, but if you walked over, it was a cliff. And it was about a 15-foot cliff, and then there was a bottom, and most of the time they had walked up the bottom. And so we were, you know, just kind of laying there basically. We didn't have anything to hide behind. And that doe walked right up, and I mean, of course the camera wasn't on, but she stepped within a foot of my foot. She almost stepped on me.
Daniel. Are you on him? No. Huh? No. Are you on him? No, I can't even see him. Dude, he's right here. Are you on him? You on him? Not yet, hold on. Hurry up. Hurry up. Daniel, I'm wrong. Daniel, now. I'm on him. Huh? I'm on him.
Meh. Meh.
Missed him.
We had talked about it, that if something like that happened, we'd have to stand up. And so I stood up and drew, and the cameraman, you know, in his defense, he was new and never really experienced much mule deer hunting, and I'll never forget he didn't stand up. And I stood up, and you can't see it in the footage, but Tuffy's standing there at 15, 20 yards broadside looking the other way. He didn't know what had happened. You know, I had a single pin, and I guessed at the distance, and you know, I missed. The frustration set in. I'll never forget that. Jeff was in camp with us, and I can remember talking to him and be like, I can't believe after all these days and had him within bow range broadside, and I couldn't close the deal.
Watch your backside. Top of this hill, look at the shadow. It's awesome. They popped up over right now. You'd see them. Wind's perfect.
The amazing thing for me was he almost stepped on us again. Instead of walking up the draw, he come over the cliff. We could hear him, and he actually rubbed the same yucca plant that we were sitting against. And you know, as he come out of the yucca, he turned and looked at us, and I mean, he's 2 foot away from us, and he spooked and ran out there. And luckily for us, sometimes mule deer don't act as spooked, at least in that part of the country, as the whitetail do. and it gave me enough time to be able to draw my bow and shoot him at 20 yards. And
Take them apples.
you can hear it in my reaction. I can still remember. This was a 3-year deal for me, and this in a lot of hours. And now when I say a lot of hours, anybody who's went after a particular mule deer, you spend a lot of time glassing, a lot of time not actually hunting.
And I'm not kidding you, at 4 yards, they're standing there right on the other side of this. I've seen him cut that bank a couple times, and he did. And they didn't, I mean, we were hitting so good today, they didn't know what we were. We're in the shade, we got the wind, and they went over and I was able to pick my bow up, and I even had to move my pin. I had my pin set, that other trail was for 40, you know, just in case. But middle of the body smoked him, and he's down. That's my first buck ever, mule deer buck ever with a bow. And he is a giant. That's a buck we call Tuffy. This is the 3rd year we've been after him. Dang, that's my dad. But you know what? He hasn't missed a single hunt this year.
Well, hey everyone, I know you have a lot of knife companies you can pick from, but let me tell you which one's the best, and that's Cold Steel. And the reason why, they got the best steel on the market. It's going to stay sharp for you. They got a huge variety from everyday carry to skinning and hunting. You will not go wrong with Cold Steel. Make sure and check out coldsteel.com today.
Take them apples. Holy smokes. Buddy, you gave me one heck of a fight, I'll tell you that much, man. We just found him, and I'm gonna tell you, who says Oklahoma don't have big mule deer? Look at that giant. Big, mature, old deer. I've been hunting for 3 years, and I put almost 2 solid weeks in. Today's November 14th, and I missed him last night. I mean, I don't know what happened. I looked around or punched the trigger or whatever I did. But the good Lord bailed me out and gave me an incredible opportunity today at 20 yards, broadside, wide open. But being able to know where they were going and watch them, and that's what we did. We learned a lot, and this deer is incredible.
This deer will hang on my wall for a very long time, and it's one of my most prized possessions. This deer means more to me than I can ever begin to imagine, and I just hope you enjoyed the hunt as much as I enjoy reliving.
What about your muley?
He's laying dead over. I need some help.
Really? Did you?
Yeah. Yeah, baby. I texted you.
Man, you did?
I texted you as soon as I shot him. He wasn't even dead yet when I texted you.
Boom! Well, heck, I just changed.
Heck yeah.
How about that?
Well, I tell you, Daniel killed the muley, but I'm kind of choked up right now because me and Daniel we met back in 2004 on an elk hunt, and it's like we've been kind of inseparable ever since. Took him a while to move to Oklahoma, but we had become really good friends then. And shoot, Daniel, like I said, we don't get to share camp much anymore. We really ain't got to hunt that much together other than that first time. because we're always spread out.
We're always in different places and at different times.
But today is November 14th, and I haven't been in Camp with Daniel in a long time. Come in, I was really excited. Me and Tyler both coming up here. We talked about it a lot on the phone, and yesterday was the day that Paris got attacked. And I tell you what, Daniel and I talked about it earlier. I mean, just we're kind of worried about our families and this and that, but I'm gonna tell you something right now. Americans, whatever, this ain't the way it's supposed to be. This is a country that followed God. That's why we're here. And you know, doing what we do, Daniel, it's ups and downs. And the only thing, you know, I'm 43 now. You're getting up there. And you realize the only thing steady in this whole world is God.
It's God.
And that's what we better get back to. And today, like I said, I'm kind of emotional right now just because of all that, and to be able to stand here with one of my best friends in the whole world, and to share a passion. And like I said, we've been sharing it from a phone call for a while.
And in the office and everything else, we don't really get to spend much time in the field together.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. This guy right here, he's a stone cold killer, buddy. He's a heck of a hunter.
I'm having a good year.
I'm proud of you, man. I really am, and I'm proud to call you my friend. More than anything.
I'm glad you're here, man. It's awesome. It really is. All you ever see of each other's bucks are them sitting in the freezer or footage. So
I love you, and I'm proud of the man you are, not just because you're hunting, but I love you, brother.
Love you, man. That's an awesome book.
That is one awesome book.
Well, hey guys, welcome to this week's Walk by Faith. I want to dive into a verse you've heard me talk about many times. It's Romans 8:28, and it says this, "And we know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose." Now, there's so much to unpack in this verse. We don't have time for all that, but a couple things I want to bring out. First of all, a lot of times people talk about this verse when they don't know the Lord, and that's what it's not talking about. It says, "And we know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God." And right there, that verse right there, that little sentence says, if you're a Christian, if you love God, that's how you can put up your salvation. Are you saved? Do you have Christ? Do you love God? Do you love others? Do you love God's Word? These are all things that you can kind of look at to see if you are. Your assurance in salvation, your assurance in heaven. So this verse, like I said, there's so much to unpack, but just look at that. Do you love God? And that should tell you if you know Christ, if you have that heavenly home. Make sure and check out Romans 8:28 more. Guys, I'm Jeff Danker, and remember, as we always say, shoot by sight and walk by faith.